Okay, this video is how to make a Cubism coloring page. So in Cubism, the artist would take anything, be it an animal or a person or a tree or a landscape, and they would break it up with a ruler to make it look much more, well, they wouldn't always break it up with a ruler. They would just break it up into geometric shapes, more like triangles, rectangles, squares, things like that. So it changed the way it looked. It really broke it up into more faceted small areas, bringing your attention to more, just like line, textures, color, things like that. So what I want to do today is transform just a normal average coloring page into Cubism. Now it looks really cool in my opinion if you use like a person or something that is an organic shape where this castle is actually kind of geometric, but it's still going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this ruler, and every time I draw a line I start and stop at another line. Okay, so I'm maybe not going to pay too close attention to like the actual shapes on the castle, but instead may pay more attention to my lines that I'm adding in. I'm also going to do the background, of course. Now in the background, you can do some interesting things back there, which I will talk about. As far as the size that you're breaking your shapes up into, I guess it depends on what you're using. So in order to color, we're going to use either crayons or colored pencils, and I'm going to show you guys a pretty specific way to color this. If you're using colored pencils, feel free to do some smaller areas. So maybe I'll do some smaller examples on the inside of the castle here. And then if you're doing crayon, with crayon you can use the larger areas. So I'll do 2 examples of that then. Let me do a couple more lines in here. Now, Cubism is supposed to look kind of chaotic, but not necessarily messy. So make sure when you're drawing in these lines that they are starting and stopping at another line, that you don't have lines like this that are just kind of floating in the middle of nowhere and you're moving your ruler as you're doing them. Don't do any like that, okay? All right, so I'm going to start coloring a few of these. Obviously, you would want to break up like the entire coloring page, and it can be any coloring page. It could be a really busy coloring page already, or I like to do Cubism when it's a little bit more simple, when you can kind of notice the lines more. If it's a really busy page and there's a lot going on already, it might just become kind of overwhelming. So let's see, inside my castle, I think I want to use more like cool colors. Okay, well, that's enough to get me started. I'll just do these guys. And when you color in Cubism, what I suggest is coloring dark on the outside edges, very dark. And then as you work your way towards the center, getting a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter. And what this will do is this will you'll still eventually see the shape of the castle, but it will also draw attention to all of these shapes and the borders and edges of these shapes. So even if I was to do a dark color next to this one, normally from a distance, a dark color next to a dark color, you don't see the difference between the 2 shapes because they kind of blend because they're just both dark, or same goes for 2 light shapes. But when you draw in Cubism in this way, if you color in a gradation where it's dark on the edges and fades lighter towards the center, then you will still notice those shapes. You could even, if you wanted to, I suppose, do 2 of the same color or a really similar color right next to each other, and then you would still be able to see the borders of those shapes. So even where this shape borders another shape, I'm still doing a dark outline all around the edges, fading lighter towards the center. If you have one that borders an edge, like let's say I was doing this shape over here, and it's on the edge of the castle, I wouldn't just color right over the edge of the castle. When you're coloring, you must stop when you hit a line. So like if I hit the line of the edge of the castle, I'm going to stop my blue there. I'm not going to go past it. So it's almost like you're doing the paint can fill and you're just kind of filling this space. But instead of filling it with like a solid, one-tone blue, I'm filling it with a gradation where it's darker on the edges, lighter at the center. So then eventually with my cool colors, you would really see like the outline of the castle. I'm choosing to do some colors in the background that help to contrast the cool colors on the inside. So I think in my background then I will go in with some warm colors. You can do any colors you want, by the way. It's totally up to you. You could do, really light colors to really dark. Oh, you know what I meant to do? Sorry, I meant to color the background with crayon. Let me go ahead and get a couple crayons out. Because this project also works in crayon, so feel free to use crayon if you'd like to. I'm gonna do a pretty light color. Okay, so in the background then when coloring with crayon, I left my shapes a little bit bigger, just so I had a little bit more room to work. Crayons obviously are a little bit less precise than colored pencils. I'm still starting with that dark outline all around the edge of the shape. And then I'm gonna go in and do my medium tones inside of here. And then of course fading towards the center towards my light tones. Now those ones I was doing with colored pencil were pretty small. So on this one you'll have a further way to gradate from your darks to your mediums to your lights. And the larger the space is, I suppose the harder it gets to stay consistent across. Okay, let's do a nice light one out here. I'm still gonna start with a dark outline around the edges. Even where this shape borders the edge of the paper, I'm gonna do a dark outline there. Now when it's a lighter color, like a light yellow or a lime green or a peach like I'm using, you will notice that it is harder to see the gradation. So you'll have to just, really press hard in your dark areas to try and see that fade. All right, I'm gonna do one more for you guys and then send you on your way. Dark around the outlines, even where it touches another shape. Dark on the edges. Fade into a medium, so I'm lightening on the pressure on the crayon and fading lighter towards the center. Remember, this will work on any coloring page, and it will make that coloring page, just change it. I'm sure you guys have all done normal coloring pages, so here's a different way you can do them.